Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 1878. Be prepared to be inspired.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, inspiring automotive enthusiasts, and welcome to Cars Yeah. Today I'm in a rather warm and humid Phoenix, Arizona, with a very special guest by the name of Cody Metcalf. Cody, welcome to Cars Yeah. Do you have it in gear, and are you ready to release the clutch?
Yes, sir, Mark. Thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. We're going to have some fun today. Now, before I give you a proper introduction and we dive into your life and the way you're inspiring people, what's one little thing that most people don't know about you, Cody?
Mark, I'm pretty transparent. I'm an automotive enthusiast, an outdoorsman, but I have to admit, I just picked up gardening.
Gardening. Okay.
I gardening.
Like that. Yeah.
So it's a little thing, I don't tell too many people that, but I started picking up gardening.
So gardening in the desert, cacti and grasses and in dirt and rocks.
It definitely poses a challenge, but yeah, it's you see a lot of rocks around here and things. So trying to get some cucumbers to grow, especially tomatoes, is pretty difficult. But a little bit of water, some shade, and they'll do fine.
I hear roasted tomatoes are rather nice, so that might be, they'll just roast on the vine. A way to do it. I love getting out in the yard, and I live in the Pacific Northwest where everything grows like crazy because we get a lot of water up here. And I like to go out because it gets me away from my computer, up and out, I wouldn't call it exercise, but you're moving and stuff. Although last week I tore out a large section of my yard, and I'm still feeling it a little bit from that. But I like to put some earbuds in, listen to an audiobook, listen to other podcasts, and it just allows me to kind of escape. And I'm kind of a Zen gardener. My wife just looks at me like I'm crazy. I'll spend an hour on one rhododendron just to clip it just right to make it look just great, So, but it's just kind of a part of way to get away from everything and do something different. So I think gardening is a pretty cool thing, even in the desert. So there you go. Allow me to give you a proper introduction, and we're going to dive into your life here. Cody Metcalf is the automotive instructor for East Valley Institute of Technology there in Arizona, and he sits on the RPM Foundation Task Force Board for their own apprenticeship and internship programs. This has allowed him to take his automotive passion and knowledge and pay it forward to educate the next generation, which we so dearly need. Prior to being at East Valley, Cody was a master automotive technician and team leader for a high-volume Toyota dealership in Tempe, Arizona, and there he learned the importance of great mentoring and how to turn one's passion into a rewarding career and a paycheck. Cody is a recipient of multiple awards, including the Best Auto Shop EVIT, Rookie Teacher of the Year, and Department Chair at East Valley Institute of Technology. We'll be back in just a minute to talk more with Cody, but first a word from our sponsors, so give them a listen, keep the seatbelts on, we'll be right back. One of your vehicle's interior surfaces that gets a lot of abuse is your dashboard. The sun beats down, and those damaging UV rays cause massive heat cycles, resulting in color changes and sometimes cracks. My friends at Covercraft have a great solution for you and for me. Their custom-tailored dash mats protect your dash from heat buildup while providing a stylish solution. You can choose from a variety of styles and colors, including carpet, suede mat, that's the one I have for my vehicles, Carhartt, limited edition velour mats, and the Ultimat for trucks and SUVs. Another great benefit of your Covercraft dash mat is that it eliminates the harsh glare the sun produces from your dash to the inside of your windshield, which can make driving a hazard. Covercraft's Dash Mat Design Center is located in Arizona, where they know about harsh sun. I've got a special deal for you. If you use the code YEAH21, YEAH21 at covercraft.com, you'll get 10% off your Covercraft order. That's right, 10% off. Just use the code YEAH21 at checkout. Covercraft, protecting the things that move you. I was tired of my rates for my collector car insurance going up every year for no explainable reason. My carrier seemed to be turning into a media company versus an insurance company, and I realized that a portion of my policy premium was paying for all those so-called free media goodies. So I did my homework, I talked to knowledgeable collectors, shopped around, and discovered American Collectors Insurance. They've been serving the collector car hobby since 1976. You last that long by properly serving your customers' insurance need, not with a lot of fluff. ACI is ranked the #1 online collector car insurance provider according to Google, Trustpilot, Facebook, and they offer their real person guarantee live support. No never-ending phone loops when you need help. Plus, because you don't use your classic car as a daily driver, you could save up to 40% compared to regular auto insurance. American Collectors Insurance provides agreed value policies. So if you experience a total loss to your collector vehicle or it's stolen, you'll be paid the amount listed on your declaration page, less any deductibles, of course. No ifs, ands, or buts. Give them a call today and ask for your free quote at 866-ACI-YEAH. That's 866-224-9324. Tell them you're a friend of mine, Mark Greens at Cars Yeah. American Collectors Insurance. Classic car insurance designed by collectors for collectors. All right, Cody, so we're back. Let's dive into the corner and go a little deeper into your career because you're all about mentoring, helping, promoting the driving force. And RPM Foundation is a great organization that helps young and old people that want to get into this career find a path and see there is a viable path. So let's talk about what you do every day and the joy that you bring to people and yourself by giving back to others.
I started off just like a lot of our students do, sitting in an automotive classroom. I was kind of told by counselors and some other people that, working on cars, you're not going to make any money. You're not going to be successful doing that. So I went the traditional route. I went to ASU and I was bored out of my skull. So about a year or so in, I went ahead and I went to UTI. At the same time, I got hired on by Toyota. And throughout my tenure with Toyota, I found this, not only the love for working on vehicles, but it was also helping other people come into the industry as well. And it got to a point to where I enjoyed that so much that I decided to go ahead and make the jump from the shop into the classroom. So it kind of comes full circle and being able to educate our youth and be able to educate the next generation of technician to keep cars on the road. And it's probably one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my life.
Well, what I am seeing, and I really like this too, a lot of people, young people like you experience, are told, you got to go to college, 4-year degree. You have to do that. There's no way. And they do it, but they end up with a huge noose around their neck, i.e. a loan burden. You think about what young people owe back to the government for their student loans. It's horrific in many cases, and they still don't know what they want to do. So they have this piece of paper that they thought was going to bring them value, but a lot of people don't need to take that track. And I love what you're doing there. So take me a little deeper into what your program does, how it helps these young people find a career path. And I'll tell you, from the many, many people, thousands I've interviewed here, these are viable careers. You can make very good money. My nephew is just visiting here today. He worked for Volkswagen for 11 years. Now he works for Tesla, and he's lives in Salt Lake. He's traveling out here, and he came to visit us for the evening and was telling me about Tesla and how enjoyable it was and the technology. And he basically sits at a keyboard now and codes and fixes things and works with a group of people from Tesla builders all over the world to make things. I mean, I'm listening to this going, wow. Did you ever think you'd come from changing oil on a Volkswagen, and his father was an engine builder his whole life and had a business like that, to what you're doing now? And he said, I never dreamed it, but I'm having so much fun. This is so cool. And he's making really good money.
Yeah. And Mark, and that's where the industry is going. Even as educators, we have to update our curriculum constantly to try to keep up. We also have to take additional classes and 20 hours of professional development to stay up to date on this technology, because the last thing you need is an automotive shop teaching students, how to rebuild quadrajets. It's fun stuff, but at the end of the day, we have to be able to generate a product that's going to come out and be able to have the skill sets to work on these high-tech vehicles and utilize that equipment. But a little bit about EVIT, we are what they call a JTED. So it's a Joint Technical Education District. So we service 10 other school districts. And what that is instead of each high school, having an automotive program, they send all of their students that are interested in automotive to EVIT. And so we have right now currently about 220 students enrolled in the program. It's a
lot of students.
Large,
yeah,
it's fairly big. We have currently 5 instructors, and we rotate the students around. our curriculum is based off of NATEF, which is a third body accreditation.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that the students are learning is applicable to industry and what they need to know. And when they leave the classroom, they step foot into the shop, at least they have a good foundation. The basics are there. But right now, currently, I think as of last year, Mark, we were placing more students in the automotive industry than any other CTE school in the nation.
Wow. Well, congratulations. I've had some of those students as guests on the show here, by the way, very young people. And walk us through the different types of things that they learn, because when you think of automotive repair, like my nephew who works at Tesla with electric vehicles, he said there's still a lot of parts of this car that have to be fixed. Tires, suspension, I mean, all these different things. Most people think, oh, electric car, nothing to work on. Not really. There's still all those other components. And there's this little thing called a computer in these cars. If you look at the new Plaid Tesla, oh my gosh, he said there's a game station 5 in that thing. I mean, it's amazing. I think he said it's something like $130,000. I didn't realize it was so expensive. But it's a rolling computer like all cars now. So it's not just about banging fenders and changing fluids. There's this whole technology side that you got to wrap your head around, which kids seem to love. I mean, they've grown up with tablets and phones in their hands.
And that's really unique too, Mark, is I'm starting to see a lot of these students that, just like you said, they were born into this technological age, right? After the Y2K. So technology for them and computer systems and utilizing and interfacing is like second nature. So I found that a lot of my students have picked this up extremely easy, especially when I put like an oscilloscope in their hands or a scan tool, for example. Mm-hmm. They want to immerse themselves in it. It's like a video game that they would play, but so they pick it up quite easy. The technology is changing so drastically that as automotive instructors, our curriculum is updating every 3 years. So a student in our program will learn a lot of the fundamentals. They'll learn the engine basics, of an internal combustion engine. They'll pull one down and things like that. But just as well as I do, rebuilding alternators and rebuilding starters, we just don't do that any longer. So they'll get the basics. They'll understand properties and how they work, but we're not necessarily rebuilding alternators and starters. A lot of the education portion, a lot of the teaching is really going into electrical systems. We're looking at electrical systems, drivability concerns. We spend a lot of time with a voltmeter. Believe it or not, the DVOM is probably the most utilized tool that a student in our program will have their hands on for that 2-year stint. We recently just got a Tesla motor that was donated to us. So now we get to kind of start opening that up and showing them some of the really cool stuff that's inside of there. But our curriculum and this game is changing every single day. So either you're going to stay up to date or you're going to fall behind.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's fascinating. I would assume that pretty much if you have the statistics, all your students end up landing jobs when they're done.
We have a really unique program, and I don't know if it's unique to us, Mark, but it's something that we've been doing for years. Not just an internship, but it's a job shadow. So what we do with our first and second year students is for 3 days, we put them out there in the industry. So we'll contact dealerships, we'll contact independents, and they'll host maybe 2 or 3 students for 3 days. Mm-hmm. So the student's exposed to the front end, maybe the service drive. They'll sit with a service manager, service writer. They'll, write up cars. They'll spend a day in the parts department, and then they'll spend a day in the shop with a technician. And so they get to see all of these different aspects of operations. And, you do have some students that, they don't want to turn wrenches. Maybe they're great, with customer service. So, there's always an option. There's always the ability for a student to transition into the automotive industry and not necessarily just turn in wrenches. So I believe that by exposing them to all of those things, it's a really unique experience for them to see hands-on how the inner workings of a shop, how that takes place. So after the job shadow, believe it or not, a lot of these students, the third day, they'll bring their resume. And just as well as I do, is that these shops out there are they're hurting for people right now. And a lot of these shops are actually employing these students even before they graduate out of the program. Wow. And so that builds, so it allows us to build this internship program with the, with the shop so they can home grow their own and go from there.
I think it's tremendous. And I've had many people on the show that went from working in a traditional shop, let's say a dealership, working as a technician, then evolve into front desk communications with the customers and so forth, analysis, some specialize in things. But then others that go, this working on the same cars every day is kind of boring. And they go into this whole nother group, which are the restorers and the people that are working on the classic cars and so forth, that really need someone with passion in their shop. And they're the ones hurting as well, because they typically can't pay as much as a dealership, but they have other things to offer young students that are many times more appealing. You get to work on all sorts of different cool cars. Maybe you don't have the great benefits you have at a big dealership or a big marque, but there's more flexibility, not so mundane. You're not driven really hard, because you worked at a Toyota dealership, and not to pick on Toyota or any dealership, but sometimes it's, what do they call it? Casework or piecework, where you're paid based on how much you can do and how fast you can do it. And that grind can start to be rather monotonous and boring sometimes. Other people enjoy it, but imagine getting to go work on a Rolls Royce one day, and then an old MG, and a Jaguar, and then a Porsche, and then they get into upholstery and paint finishes and chrome. I mean, there's all sorts of things. So this area is so broad for so many young people. I think it's tremendous.
It is, Mark, and I have some students of mine, and you're absolutely correct. The flat rate world, it does.
That's the word I was looking for. Flat rate world. You end up flat on your back, worn out. Is what
That's it, and it's very monotonous. It's when you're working for a specific manufacturer, it kind of takes a lot of the guesswork. After years of doing it, takes some of the guesswork out of these cars that come in there. You become kind of complacent. Almost, you're kind of pigeonholing yourself, because you're only working on one make, a few different models across the board, but you're not being challenged any longer. And I have some students that I've put into speed shops and upholstery shops, and I'm going to plug a guy from Wild Child. He was a graduate of EVIT, and he opened up Wild Child, which is, they take Mini Coopers, and it's just so cool. And he's hired a few of my students, and, there's so many different opportunities out there for automotive enthusiasts. You're right. It's not just the one path dealership route. There's so many different things out there, and keeping these old cars on the road and keeping that passion, that love is, it's a big piece of our industry. And I'm very, very fortunate to be a part of supplying entry-level technicians for that.
Well, you're a great mentor and inspiration. I'd love to know who was your driving inspiration. Who was a great mentor and inspiration for you in your life as you came through your career?
My dad. My dad was a great man. The values that he instilled at a young age carry on to this day. But I would have to say in my professional career, there's a gentleman named Gary Sorley, and he's the owner of Toyotech now, which is a local garage here in Phoenix, Arizona. But, he took me under his wing as a young entry-level technician and provided that safety net, I think, that a lot of entry-level technicians today aren't receiving. You get into this world, you get thrown into flat rate, and then you get that taste, right? And you're not going to be doing well. You're making more minimum wage than you were, flat rate, at least for the first couple of years. So Gary Sorley kind of took me in and really, he wasn't scared to let me fail, because that's a part of the growth process. But I really think that, that's such a crucial part of entry-level technicians or just apprentices across the board, is they have to have a good mentor. And, to this day, I've had many mentors, but he's definitely one that comes to mind.
Very cool. So let's take a short break. When we come back, I want to talk about a big challenge, because what we're facing right now in a lack of people working in this career path is a huge challenge, but I want you to share a big challenge that you overcame and what you learned from it. So sit tight, keep the seatbelts on, look around for your 10 millimeter. It's somewhere down there. I used mine yesterday, actually, and I found it. Thank goodness. I'll be right back. What began as a charitable car show has grown into the world's greatest collector car auctions, raising over $133 million for charitable organizations to date. For nearly 50 years, automotive enthusiasts from all over the world have enjoyed the Barrett-Jackson collector car auctions, and I'm a huge fan. Regarded as the barometer of the collector car industry, their auctions are world-class lifestyle events where thousands of the world's most sought-after, unique, and valuable automobiles cross the block in front of a global audience, in person, on TV, or streamed online. Barrett-Jackson produces the world's greatest collector car auctions in Scottsdale, Arizona, Palm Beach, Florida, Las Vegas, Nevada, and new for 2021, Houston, Texas. The excitement of Barrett-Jackson auctions is contagious, and a unique experience is not to be missed. I've discovered Linkage. It's a new quarterly publication and website that covers the automotive market, driving, restoring, collecting, and discovering your passion for motor vehicles. Linkage is about experiences, opinions, and values. Linkage is an actual informed, reasoned opinion based on first-hand experiences. A talented Linkage team covers the automotive world, the people who share your passion and mine, smart, considered, rational, and experienced opinions, ones you can learn from and grow. That includes our passion that drives auctions and the collector car market. So come with me and join us on this journey. And be sure to use the code CARS when you subscribe, and they'll give you $10 off. Boom! Linkage, geared for the automotive life. Subscribe today at linkagemag.com. So we're back, Cody. I want you to share a big challenge, big obstacle, even a big failure that you faced. You talked about Gary challenging you and allowing you to fail, but I'd love for you to share a situation that taught you a really valuable lesson that you could take forward in a positive way.
The first time I stepped into a classroom, as a technician and as somebody that had kind of gone through the ranks, I was very confident in my own abilities. But what I didn't realize is when I walked into a classroom with 40 students sitting in there, they wanted to know what was up in my brain, and I had no idea how to present it. I didn't know how to teach or how to educate, and it was a challenge. And it took about a year and a half before I was really able to kind of find this rhythm and figure out how to educate students, because everybody learns a different way. And I think that was probably the most challenging thing so far up to date in my career was getting in front of a classroom. First, the nerves. And then the second piece of that is being able to take what you know and educating others with that. So I think, Mark, that has to be the biggest challenge that so far I've been up against.
Allow me to ask you if you could pick out one of the challenges that came with that piece of learning to be a great teacher, a great mentor. What was it? I have an idea what it might be, actually, but I'll let you tell me what yours was. Just one of the many, because there was probably a few. There was probably a few.
Yeah, there were quite a few things. I had this conception that I was going to walk in and I was just going to teach people, how to work on cars. But what I didn't realize is when you step into the classroom, you have all of these different students from all of these different backgrounds, and you're so much more than just an educator. You're a big brother. You're maybe a father figure of some sort. You're somebody that people confide in. So it's so much more than just a job. And I think that, initially that kind of put a little bit of stress on you, right? Like you have all of these responsibilities.
Sure. A lot of people tugging at you.
Yeah. And so it was, and like I say, to this day, Mark, it's the absolutely the most rewarding thing I've ever decided to do in my career. We always go through those challenges, and every year a new batch of students comes in, and figuring out how everybody learns and being able to tailor curriculum to them is it's an ongoing challenge, but at the end of the day, it's well worth it.
Did you discover, and the thing that was coming to my mind was, when I think back of all the instructors I've had in school, I even remember my first grade teacher, Mrs. Yee. I don't know how I remember her, because that was a long time ago. But I found that the best educators were the toughest ones on me. They really pushed me. And at first I didn't like it. I'm like, oh gosh, this is going to be a tough one. But more so, they were people that listened versus just getting up there and spewing out everything and walking away. They created an opportunity for an exchange of communication, which very few teachers, at least in my history, allow. They just came up and taught and they walked out. And you're like, and well, hours with me are between this and this if I have time for you, that kind of thing. So that exchange of communication, was that something that came to light for you that was maybe a surprise as a new educator?
Yes. And the biggest thing for me was when we got out into the shop, for example, instead of letting the student do the work and watching them go through the process, I would jump in and I would,
you want to be the helicopter parent. Yeah.
Yes.
Let me tie your shoes for you.
Exactly. And so I wasn't letting them, really explore their capabilities at first. And that was a big thing. And, if the teacher's doing all the work, they're doing all the learning. And that was a key piece to running not only a successful classroom, but a successful shop, is letting the students kind of take over, let them, I present the information out there, and then they get to challenge themselves by going out in the shop and implementing the techniques and the repairs. And so you do have to pull kind of that tenacity, that wantingness, because we as automotive enthusiasts, as a technician, I loved fixing things and solving problems, but now it's time for me to take a step back and let them do the problem solving. So I'm on the other side of the fence where I'm actually out there creating the problems now. So I create the bugs and they get to go out there and diagnose them and then repair them. But yeah, I think that was a big challenge. Was at first I was presenting the information. I wasn't letting them really, dive too far into it, but without stepping in, I guess.
I think it's a great thing. My children went to Montessori school in their elementary, from toddler through elementary. And the first time my wife and I went to a Montessori school to observe before we placed our children there, I stood there and I went, this is chaos. And, I looked at my wife, I said, what is going on here? Like, where's the chairs in the row, and like where I grew up, I was being institutionalized, taught to work in a factory, right? And Montessori and I remember this little boy coming over and his shirt was on inside out and backwards. Now these are little toddlers, right? And the teacher came over and we said hello and I said, aren't you going to help him, put his shirt on right? And she goes, no, he put his own shirt on and he'll learn to put it on right eventually. But the first step was he put his own shirt on. Most parents put their kids' shirt in. And that kind of struck a nerve with me because I went, okay, I think I see what's going on here. In this classroom where there's all this activity, each child was being told, you have to do this, like coloring maybe or reading, and you do it on your own, but you learn at your own pace, your own way. And our kids excelled at that, but they both excelled in different ways. They both learned in different ways, but they both ended up being exemplary students going on to, graduating with the gold tassels from college and all that. And they've all said that it was that Montessori instruction process where we were allowed to fail, wear our shirt on inside out and backwards, maybe, goof up the way they teach phonics and reading and writing. Yeah, spelling was not important. It was more about getting it down on paper so you could get your idea across. It was a very different, weird thing for me as a parent, but I learned that it was really, really valuable. So a lot like what you've learned. So I appreciate you sharing that. When you look ahead as an automotive instructor at East Valley Institute of Technology, what's a bucket list item for you in let's say the next 3 years of what you'd like to achieve as an instructor there?
I've been very, very fortunate in the time that I've been there. It's, I've had a lot of fun. In the education system, there's only a couple places you can really go, Mark, and that's, you can stay in the classroom or you kind of get into the administration side of things. For me, I want to stay in the classroom. I want to stay in the classroom for as long as possible.
Yeah.
I have no desire to get into that side of the world. Educating and teaching is, like I said this before, it is a very, very rewarding piece. And, when I have students that call me 2-3 years down the road, like, Mr. Metcalf, I'm getting married, I'm buying my first home, and they're still working the shop, they're shop owners. It's so fulfilling.
Oh, yeah.
It's like this big smile, I'm on the other side. They can only see me smiling and just how, it's like you're a proud dad again.
Yeah, tremendous.
My son is 4 years old, and I hope that he has instructors and teachers that are passionate about what they do. And you said the word institutionalized a little bit earlier, and you're absolutely correct. We're just so much of this system is just kind of pumping them through, and it's good educators, it's good teachers that really take stock in their students that I think are really making a difference. So as far as where I want to go on my bucket list in my career, I think I have found it. I don't plan on going anywhere else. I really enjoy what I do.
Well, you learn the secret sauce to life, and that's giving back to others and having raised 2 children who are now adults. But I tell you, the thing to teach your child, I would suggest, and you probably already know this, is teach that little boy to ask questions a lot. And a lot of kids are too afraid to ask their teachers questions, but my kids both were taught to ask lots of questions all the time. The teachers enjoy it better. The great teachers, the good teachers, and it helps them so much more. So push those questions all the time,
Yeah.
It's
because one student has a question, there's probably 5-6 other students around them that had that same question.
Too afraid to raise their hand. Yeah.
They don't want to ask.
Because they grew up in a house where they weren't told to be quiet. And that's the problem with schools. You think about elementary school. I'll rant a little bit here, but you understand this. The bell rings, sit down, shut up, listen. Don't talk. Bell rings, go eat lunch. Sit down, eat your lunch. Bell rings, come back. Sit down. And that really was the way institutionalized public education still is, probably in some. I don't know. Hopefully, maybe it's changing a little bit, but
it's changing, just not too much. But when you go back to the Industrial Revolution, it's like factory workers.
Yeah, the bell rings, go to work.
Yeah,
shut up, do your job.
Yeah.
Don't ask. Yeah, it's kind of that way. So I'm glad to hear there's these opportunities for people. Let's talk about you for a minute here.
Okay.
Cars, special cars. Is there a special vehicle in your life that you could share a story about?
Oh, there is. I have owned so many cars, trucks, motorcycles. And there's been one that has stayed with me this entire time. It's the first vehicle that I purchased when I turned 18 years old. I worked bussing tables for 2 years to buy this car. It's a 1992 Ford Mustang.
Cool.
It was my dream car. And believe it or not, it still is my dream car.
You still have it?
I still have it to this day.
Nice.
And
wow.
It's the only thing I've kept. It's gone through stages. I think as not only as an enthusiast, but I'm very passionate about, my vehicles. And this car has kind of gone through those stages where, just like me in my life, off the showroom floor at one point, and the gentleman took really, really good care of it. And I purchased it from him. And I started making some subtle changes to it. And, pulled out the 302 and I put a big block in it. And I went with some nitrous, carbureted. Then through the transformation, after about 15 years, now it's in the garage now. And it's a 472 with a Garrett turbo, fuel injected,
wow.
mega squirt. Now there's no power brakes. There's no steering. So it sits in there quite a bit, especially in these hot Arizona summers with no air conditioning. But yeah, that's the car I've kept.
Cool.
It's and hopefully I'll give that to my son someday.
Well, there you go. I love it. Now I'm going to crawl into your skull a little bit here. Okay, you're a psychologist, psychiatrist. If you were manifest as a vehicle, you became a vehicle, what would you be and why?
I would have to. Mark, have you ever heard of a Sherp?
A Sherp.
S-H-E-R-P?
S-H-E-R-P,
a Sherp.
Sherp. No.
It's almost it's like an all-terrain vehicle. I don't believe they're street legal, but it is it's the ultimate off-road kind of vehicle that gets over any obstacle that you put. It's amphibious. It can float. It'll go over logs up to about a meter high.
Okay, I just pulled this very odd thing up. This is the most bizarre off-road ATV. What would you call? It's weird. It doesn't even look real. It looks like a little toy that some kid invented with the biggest dang sand tires I've ever seen. And it looks like it could crawl over virtually anything that came up to it. But it's like tiny wheelbase.
Yeah,
the wheels are almost
wheelbase.
touching each other. Yeah, That's crazy. I've never seen one of these before. Wow.
And the reason why I say that is when it comes to obstacles, I as a young kid and growing up, things were very challenging. Getting into my career was really challenging. And then I've gone through a lot of different things, in my short time on this rock. And I think that, like the Sherp, I've been able to overcome and get to that next point with. There's been hiccups here and there, but have always overcome those challenges. And like the Sherp, man, you put something in its way, and
you go right over.
Whether it's float, or crawling through the woods, it always arrives on the other side. So
looks like the best way to describe this thing, and you listeners can Google Sherp, $100,000 Tonka toy for adults.
That's it.
Yeah, I love it. Hey, let's talk about a book that you maybe have read that you would recommend others to pick up and enjoy, or audiobook maybe.
Mm-hmm. I'm a big finance guy. So when I was younger, I was kind of always interested in it, but my parents didn't have any money, and so it was finding mentors and reading books that I really learned kind of how the financial world works. And one of my favorite books is by Benjamin Graham. It's called The Intelligent Investor. It's a great book. It goes, over just the fundamentals and the basics of money management and investing. And another good one is The Richest Man in Babylon. This is actually a book that I recommend to some of my students. We in my class, Mark, we don't just teach automotive. It's kind of like a life course. I find that a lot of students go through their educational journey and there's a lot of things that are left out, some really important things in my opinion,
Yeah.
and so, we get to talk about, finances. We'll talk about certain different types of investing and just money management. And just when you get out there as a flat rate technician, you start busting your hump, and then you get to a point where you're making $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year, and then you're spending it all.
Yeah.
At a certain point, you're not going to be able to turn wrenches anymore. So what is the end game? What is your plan? And you have to have a plan. But all too many times, these students, they come in there and they don't know the basics of finance. They don't understand that their body at a certain point is going to break down, and that they're going to have some sort of end game. So I'm a big proponent of that. And that's probably one of my favorite books.
Yeah. George Classen wrote that book. It's a great book. And I think you hit on a real strong note here. You see these things posted on Facebook often, ask a general question. And mostly I skip over those and move forward. But one was, what do you believe is not taught in public schools that should be? And I just glanced through all the answers. There's lots of answers there. Number one was finance. And you're right. People are not taught that. And if you didn't grow up in a family where they spoke about it, what are you to know? And it's the same with, say, sports figures. They start making tons and tons of money and they just blow it all. And you go, how could that guy be homeless now? I mean, he was making, $10 million a year and they just have no grasp of it. So I really think that's something that is so important, should be. And the weird thing is, people will say, oh, money's not important. Hogwash. It's probably one of the most important things. It's more about how you use it as a tool, though, to be successful and to help others. Because if you're financially successful, you can help people in so many ways. There's so many people that need help in a variety of ways. So I'm glad you mentioned finance books. We'll take one more show break. We come back. You and I are going to go on the ultimate drive, my friend, through the beautiful Arizona desert. So sit tight. We'll be right back. Cars Yeah is proud to support our veterans, which is why I've teamed up with our nonprofit partner, TechForce Foundation, through its Veterans at Work Military Transition Campaign. The tech shortage is very real, and our country needs skilled, qualified techs to keep our cars, trucks, airplanes, and fleets rolling. When so many vets build their skills in maintaining and servicing vehicles when deployed, TechForce helps transition those skills to jobs as professional technicians when they come home. Learn more about TechForce Foundation and its Veterans at Work Military Transition Fund at techforce.org today. Okay, so I have a magic scepter, which means you get to pick the ultimate vehicle, the person you want to be with. This could be somebody living or deceased, and who's driving and where are you going. So what does the ultimate drive look like for you?
When I think about this, there's so many prolific people out there, alive and dead, but somebody that really kind of comes to mind is somebody that has really, has inspired the world, is Henry Ford. Henry Ford, and the things that as a child, the things that he did, and the kind of where he was to where he is, or where he was towards the end of his life, was very cool to me. And so I'd say it'd be Henry Ford. What better car than a Model T?
Yeah.
And then I think that I would have to drive the Model T. Mm-hmm. I've been behind the wheel a couple times. Really, really unique.
Those pedals are all in the wrong place.
Yeah, really, really unique system there. Yeah. But, we actually have one at the school. Somebody donated one at the school. And nice. I guess it's kind of like the Volkswagen of his time, like the VW Bug of his time. Yeah. So, but yeah, Mark, I think it's going to be with Henry Ford. We're going to have a conversation.
Now, what you have to do is give him or go for a ride in that Model T and then say, hey, I've got something else to show you, and step out of that vehicle and into a new Ford GT and watch watch his eyes go, what is this? Yeah, most definitely. I think that'd be pretty cool. Or even, a GT40 maybe, a race car from, the movie that just came out. So very cool. Well, you've taken us on a really fun ride today, and I really appreciate spending some time with me today. I want to do a shout out to Nick Ellis, RPM Foundation. He's the one that introduced me to Cody. So Nick was a recent guest not too long ago, a few weeks ago. Great guy. He's brought me some wonderful guests here on Cars Yeah. So Nick, thank you very much. What's a maybe parting mantra, quote, success quote you might leave us with today, Cody?
Well, something that kind of comes to mind by Mr. Thomas Jefferson. It's nothing can stop the man with the right mental attitude from achieving his goals, but nothing on earth can help the man with the wrong mental attitude. And I believe that if you approach everything with that mindset, nothing can keep you from achieving the things that you want to do. As long as you always stay positive, as long as your mind is always in the right spot. So that's probably something I stand by, a way that I try to live my life.
Well, it is all about your attitude. It really is. It's no matter what, if you have a terrible day or a challenging trip somewhere, it's all how you look at it as to how you will end up. So Thomas Jefferson was a pretty smart guy. I love that quote. How can people learn more about East Valley Institute Technology, EVIT?
You can log on to the good old interwebs and type in evit.com into the browser, and it'll bring you kind of to the homepage and show you a lot of the different programs that we offer there. I believe at this point we have about 42 different CTE programs, everything from cosmetology, welding, plumbing, automotive, diesel, collision refinishing. So you can go online and, if you are in the local area, there's, I think, 10 different school districts. If you're in high school, it's completely free, doesn't cost you a dime. And if you are an adult student, you can attend there with the tuition. I believe it's right around $4,200 a semester. So I'm sorry for the program, and which is quite a bit significantly less than a lot of other schools.
For your college, having put two kids through private college, yes, it is. I can tell you that. Wow.
So that's where you can find us there if you're interested. Also, the Tech Force Foundation. I sit on the board of directors for the Tech Force Foundation, and they are a nonprofit that gives grants and scholarships to aspiring automotive technicians getting into transportation careers. They're a wonderful organization. They have just actually enrolled a platform. It's called the Peer-to-Peer Network.
It's very cool. Yeah.
Yes, and it allows educators and students and people in the industry right now to connect and share ideas and learn. And the resources are just in abundance. So you can find that on techforce.org.
Absolutely. And my regular listeners know TechForce is my charity of choice here on Cars Yeah, as well as RPM Foundation helping them as well. So I'll put links to all these on Cody's show notes page. If you have a young person in your life, or you're looking at changing your career, maybe you're an older person, there are some wonderful opportunities out there in the automotive sector just waiting for you to go and to enjoy. Cody, hey, thanks for spending some time with me today and sharing your inspirational life. My hat's off to you and what you're doing for so many people. Until you and I talk again, I'll see you down the road.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. It's been a good hour, and thank you for spreading the word and keeping automotive enthusiasts out there and connected. And thanks again, buddy. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Cars Yeah is all about inspiring automotive enthusiasts, and that would be you. Take care.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.